Hi, my name is Mary Jane Cronin, and I want to talk to you today about taking care of yourself when you're taking care of others. In 2004, I began working for a local hospice as a counselor. I went to nursing homes, family homes, and hospice houses to assist the patients and families in preparing to care for a terminally ill person. I met spouses, adult children, and friends who were now altering their lives and the lives they once had to care for someone that they loved. Empathetically, I would listen to them and share their struggles to keep a smile and enough energy to get through another day. A study completed by the National Family Caregivers Association showed that there is currently 54 million caregivers today in the United States. Many of our parents needed to work themselves, and they were forced to place their parents in nursing homes and facilities because they knew of no other option at the time. Today, however, many of the boomers are taking on the responsibility of keeping their loved ones living in their homes or moving in with them and trying to hold down a full-time job as well. Not everyone is eager to take on the role of a family caregiver. For the reluctant caregiver, if they can get out of the why me type of thinking or being thought of as the victim who has to provide care, they may discover an opportunity to learn so much through the caregiving process. Every day, as a caregiver, you have choices. When you get caught up thinking about the past or the future, worrying and feeling pain and concern, you let those negative emotions control your life. By starting to learn to live more fully in the present moment, you can begin to accept and appreciate the precious moments that you have now with this person that you're caring with. Taking control and responsibility for your own life is an important realization that comes up when you are caring for someone else. As a caregiver, you may find yourself taking on tremendous responsibilities and pressures. It's important that you seek out tools to empower yourself so that you can make wise decisions for your well-being as well as your loved ones. You are more than your physical body. You have a spirit, and your spirit is eternal. Your loved ones may have a deteriorating illness, a disability, but their spirit still resides within their body. It's up to you to help care for them physically, emotionally, spiritually, and to make sure others care for them with compassion and love. Some of the tasks that you may have in caring for your loved one might be managing medications or taking them to the doctors and nurses on their behalf, helping bathe them or dress them, someone who is frail or disabled and not able to do it for themselves. Take care of the chores, the meals, or the bills for someone who cannot do this alone. It is, however, important to maintain their dignity and purpose in life. Maybe they're not able to do everything that they were once able to, but finding things they are able to and letting them enjoy those tasks. Having them do smaller things around the house, like maybe washing the dishes or helping you fold clothes, when they once mowed the lawn and took care of all the household needs. One of the best things you can do when you're starting to care for someone else is to have a frank conversation with your loved one about their needs and their plans. Do this while they're still able to make the aspects of their daily life. If you're an adult child caring for a parent, ask the sibling who is most comfortable with the parent to be present to discuss the subject with him or her. When you're a caregiver, one of the biggest things you need to be aware of are advance directives and your caregivee's decisions. What do they want for end-of-life care, and what do they want if they get sick? This week I received a call from my brother that his wife had passed away. She was in her 60s, and it was a sudden heart attack. When I asked him what her wishes were, he said, "I don't know. We never talked about it." Things like this are something you always think you have more time for, but often you don't. The first one to look at is a healthcare surrogate. Now, this is someone that you appoint to make decisions if you can't, if you're unconscious, if you've been in an accident. The important thing is to tell that healthcare surrogate what your wishes are, not for them to make a decision that you want to put off. Have that conversation with them. Let them know what kind of care you want if you should be taken to the hospital. Let them know what kind of final arrangements, such as cremation or burial. Would you like to have a service? Do you want friends around? One of the things that are involved in your advance directives are a living will. This is something that you also should talk about with your healthcare surrogate. A living will designates what kind of treatment you want. For example, do you want a feeding tube if you're not able to swallow? Do you want to be resuscitated and have a do not resuscitate where someone does not resuscitate you should you stop breathing? Do you want to have medicines to make your life more comfortable at the end of life? Also, do you want to have liquids and fluids and food, or do you want to be made comfortable so that you can peacefully pass? If you are needing dialysis, is this something that you want to continue to have, or do you wish not to? These are decisions that should be talked about, but often people do not bring up. I encourage you to take a time when things are comfortable and bring up these subjects. Maybe rather than sound aggressive or assertive to the person you're caring for, mention your own. You know, I've been thinking about having a living will drawn up. This says that I do not want to have a feeding tube if I'm not able to swallow. It says that I do not want to be resuscitated. Or if there's a chance that I could live a strong and healthy life, I would like the paramedics to resuscitate me and do everything they can to increase my chances of living a healthy life. Although these conversations are hard to have, they are something that should be discussed and is always most helpful in times of caregiving for other people. Caregivers come in all shapes and sizes. There's the daughter or son who started out stopping over a few times a week just to check on their parents. Maybe they would pick up their medicine on the way over, or bring a leftover meal that they had prepared so that their parents did not have to cook for themselves. Maybe the caregiver is a spouse whose love and nurturing began with the phrase "in sickness and in health," and now finds that they're having to provide most of the care for the one that they love. Maybe the caregiver is a friend who saw someone declining or needing a little extra care and support and stopped in to help them and now this has become a regular routine. No matter what they look like or which type of caregiver they are, their life has now been changed forever as a result of deciding to be a caregiver. In 2015, AARP conducted a caregiver survey. They asked the caregivers of their readership what their needs were. The first need they felt was managing emotional and physical stress. Those caregivers under the age of 50 said 84% of them needed some help with that emotional and physical stress. 87% of those over 50 said the same thing. Now, in making end-of-life decisions, like we talked about just a little bit ago, 34% under the age of 50 said they needed help with those decisions. Over 50, it went up to 78%. This adds validity to the fact that so many people neglect to make those end-of-life decisions or have those conversations. As far as caregiving training and information that was needed, under the age of 50, 48% said they needed more caregiver training and more information. Over the age of 50, that number jumped up to 90. Often that is because caregivers of that generation, the older generation, tends to not want to ask for help, does not go on the computer and look for information, and tries to do everything on their own because they often feel that asking for help is a sign of weakness. When caregivers know in their hearts asking for help is necessary. One in 5 caregivers reported having had training but seeking additional resources. Caregivers in high burden situations are more likely to seek help. The 3 top topics of concern to caregivers are keeping their loved ones safe, managing their own stress, and finding easy activities to do with their care recipients. Many also reported that they wish they had an ability to find some time for themselves, because caregiving is a full-time job, and those living in the home find little time for themselves. What did the AARP Caregiver Survey reveal were the 4 top needs of those needing care? The first one was errand running and appointments. Maybe you need to stop and pick up some food items for them. Maybe they needed their clothing picked up from a dry cleaner. Maybe they had a doctor's appointment and did not feel sturdy enough to drive themselves. The second need was ADLs, which are also known as tasks of daily living. These are things like helping your caregiver get dressed, or maybe preparing food for them. Things that they normally would be able to take care of as far as their personal needs now may need a little bit of assistance. Medication management was one of the top issues that we found with hospice. People would become confused, forget to take their medicines, maybe get the bottles confused as to far as which one they needed to take, or they wouldn't remember if they took them, and they would either take them again or they would forget. The last is medical care. As our loved ones start to decline, their medical needs are going to be more important. Sometimes having a skilled nurse come into the home can help provide those medical cares without having to take your loved one out to a hospital or to a doctor. Sometimes going into the hospital or a respite for a few days can help them reach their medical care and then once again be able to return home and be provided care by you. Let's take a look at what we talked about today. As we talked about today, the advanced directives, including the healthcare surrogate and a healthcare proxy. Now, a proxy is someone who the hospital or the person who's taking care of them assigns when no one has been designated. It may be a friend, it may be a neighbor. In some instances, it's a guardian in the community because no one has specifically set aside a healthcare surrogate. This is one of the main reasons you do want to pick someone that you trust and have that conversation with them. Oftentimes people get living will and personal will confused. A personal will is who do I want to leave my earthly possessions to? Things like my house and my personal properties. A living will is what do I wish to have my needs met? Do I want to have artificial feeding tubes? Do I want to have a DNR and a healthcare surrogate? In my book, A Caregiver Connection, I dig deeper into some of these topics. We also talk about the art of being a caregiver and writing about your caregiving experience. This is a guidebook that lets you journal and share stories about your loved one. Also exploring your feelings and emotions about being a caregiver and about what's next in your plans. How does caregiving affect your body, physically, emotionally, socially? Resources and information is the last chapter in the book and talks about when you need to get a little bit of help. Maybe it's having a home health aide come out and stay with your loved one for a few hours a week. Maybe it's looking at assisted living or long-term skill facility. The information in the book shows you what to ask and what to look for when you're making those decisions. Normally the book is offered at $19.95, but for those watching my webinar, it's being offered at $14.95 at this time with just $3 shipping. Click on the link maryjanecronin.com/books and order your copy today. And thank you so much